All right, we are here a little early. We're going to make sure everybody can hear and see all the things. And then I'll wait to see what all is going to show up on the screen. I'm excited. Today is a big day. Whew. Wow, we made it to launch day. Ripple effect of impact. There's 24 other authors. Hopefully some of them will be able to join us today so we can hear from them about their chapters as well. So yeah, I'm excited. We will get started in about 3 minutes. So looks like all is doing what it's supposed to do. So official sound check complete.
So I want to talk about it now with my guest, Sherry James. She's the founder of Phoenix Speaks.
My dad committed suicide when he was only 37 years old. I was 7.
We're going to talk about suicide. We'll be talking to a leading national expert. She knows something about this. She lost both of her parents to suicide. You'll hear her journey next.
The thing that gives suicide its power is silence. If you are afraid to talk about how you're feeling, if you're afraid to discuss that you're stressed, that's where suicide, that's where it wins.
If I just had more money, then I wouldn't be sad. If I just had more things or nicer clothes or a nicer car, when people don't understand that mental wealth is more than financial wealth. Healing out loud is tough because if there's not a, if there's not a project plan. It's not like step A and then step B. Healing is not linear, but the only way it works is when you have that power to heal out loud and let people know this is tough for me as well.
If we're going to change it, if we're going to do anything about it, we've got to have this uncomfortable conversation about suicide.
Right now is Sherry James. She's the author of After Suicide, Leading with Love and Light.
People don't choose to have severe depression, and if anything, they want to hide it so that they don't negatively impact their family.
One of the programs that we offer in my organization is called Creating Mental Wealth. It's a paradigm shift. It changes the conversation from one that's filled with shame and taboo to a conversation who doesn't want to be wealthy.
Mental wealth is something that is long-term. It is sustainable. It is scalable. It's something that you can pass on to your children. And they don't have to be afraid to talk about, you know what, hey, today I'm feeling something and it's not happy.
How many of our lives have been chaotic and crazy and noisy for the past couple of years? But if we know that if there's just one person that you could look in the eye and go, we've got to go back. We have to go back to the past. If we're going to move forward, we got to go back to those things that were important to us.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us and your positiveness over this. This is what we do need to hear right now. So we really hope it goes well. Maybe we can talk with you again once it's up and running. Sherry James, really appreciate you, Sherry.
All right, y'all. It's 12 o'clock. It is time to get started. I'm so excited. Thank you for joining. If you're here early and on time, mwah, I appreciate that. I'm here on time, which is kind of awesome. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going to happen today. Today is the official launch day for Ripple of Impact. And I was one of the many authors that was able to contribute to this amazing anthology. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I participated in this project. I'm going to read a little bit of my chapter. And hopefully, you guys will stay engaged and chat with me so I'll know that I'm not here alone. I see some folks in the chat. So thank you so much, Raymond and Tiara. Q is in the building. Hello, Quantinetta. It's good to see you, and Mashera. I want to talk a little bit about why this book is so important, why this chapter is important for me and in my story. As you guys all know, I've been speaking a lot about the work that I do in suicide prevention. A lot of you know why I'm so passionate about that work. This chapter and what I'll read to you today is the closing of a chapter in my life. I am going to continue to heal from the things that happened in my past, but this book and this chapter is a catalyst to me moving into the next version of my life in the next season. So I see Kathy is here. I'm going to bring her on stage just a moment. Kathy Dirksen has been the inspiration for this and many other books. And so we'll definitely bring her up and have her chat a little bit about this book as well. Welcome, Kathy. Good morning or good afternoon.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Nope, still can't hear you.
Anything?
Not yet. So while Kathy's working to get her microphone up and running, I'll tell you that I had the opportunity of meeting her. And Kathy, just chime in whenever you can. I'm not sure why your audio is not on, but I did have the opportunity to meet Kathy through a networking group that we're in together. And I remember when I first met her, she said, "You know what? I'm going to do these anthologies, and I'd love for you to be a part." And I was terrified. I wasn't ready to tell my story necessarily, but she encouraged me and motivated me and got us to where we are today. So
is my sound working yet?
I'm not sure why I can't hear you.
Oh.
Not sure.
How about now? Did that change?
So if anyone else, maybe it's just me. Let's see. Can anyone else hear Kathy? Is it just me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I don't know, Kathy, do you want to go out and come back in and see if that helps?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so Kathy will be back in a little bit. Thank you so much for joining. So let me tell you again a little bit about what I'm hoping to do at the end of this chapter. Obviously, we want everyone to buy the book. People have been asking for the code. People have been asking for the link. And I tried my best not to share that until today, because today is the day that we want people to purchase the book. So if you have not done that, Chris said he could hear, that he could hear Kathy. So that's my issue. That's why we start out early. Okay. Hopefully when she comes back, I can hear her too. I want to see if anyone in the chat, while we're waiting for Kathy to come back, if you guys have any questions, any things that you'd like for me to cover outside of the chapter, and we can maybe talk about that until we get Kathy back. Because I definitely want to hear why she pulled this anthology together. And Chris, if you can hear her, then maybe I will just turn on. I don't know. I really don't know how to make that happen. I don't know how to hear her. So we'll figure it out. I am going to pull up the chapter while we're waiting for her. And I'll read a little bit. Oh, you're back. Hey. Okay, let's try this again, y'all. Gotta love technology, right? Don't you just love it when it works?
There. Is that working? Can you hear me this time?
No. Let's try.
Nope, I don't know.
Yep, no,
I don't
understand why.
Should be.
Okay.
How about now? Anything?
Not sure. Mm-mm. Okay.
How about now?
I can't hear
Anything?
you. So
No,
that's strange.
I don't know. You can't change anything. There's no.
Okay, Kathy, we've go ahead. You can go ahead and speak.
Can you hear me? But if you can't hear me, there's no point in speaking. Yes, you can hear me? Oh,
Go
how
ahead,
long is.
Kathy.
All right, so for sure you can hear me. Yes. You don't seem like you can hear me. Oh, you can hear me? Okay. Apparently some people can hear me. Okay. Anyways, thanks for having me here, Sherry. Sorry about that tech support. I didn't really change anything, but I guess it's working. Yeah, so the book is released today. So far we have hit #1 in US, Canada, Australia. We are charting in Germany and the UK. So we are doing well, on a roll. And yes, it's exciting to have Sherry join us. There's 23 women from around the world sharing their stories in this book. So we have authors from US, Canada, Germany, South Africa, Australia. So it's quite a collection. And so, Sherry, now I can't hear you. So I can't hear you, Sherry. So I'm not sure. Can we just hear one of us at a time? Can anyone else hear Sherry? Oh, that's funny because I can't hear Sherry. And so, Sherry, I'm not sure what else. So yes, to get
It's only I muted myself, so I know there's a lag. So I just muted myself so I could hear you.
Oh, I see. Got you. And so to order the book, you can go to actiontakerspublishing.com/ripple, and that will take you to a page
Oh, I
that
put
has.
myself on mute just so that you could present, but I can hear you fine.
Okay. Okay.
Oh
And
Lord,
yes.
some people can and some can't. That's so interesting.
Yes. So from actiontakerspublishing.com/ripple, that will take you to a page that has many different country Amazon links posted. So no matter where you are in the world, you can then go and click on that country and order from that Amazon, and that will give us that activity in those different countries. So, and on that page as well is a group of links. Each author, many of the authors have given a gift, really a freebie that will, if you're interested in what they do and learning more about them, you can click into their freebie and connect with. A lot of them are things like free discovery chat or a free download of some sort. And so we have so many different authors that have a lot of offerings and a lot of wisdom to share. Sherry, did you want to tell us about your chapter? Not sure if Sherry, can you hear me?
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
I would love to. I know there's a lag, so I'm going to wait to make sure that I don't talk over you. Thank you, though. I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this amazing book, Kathy. Thank you for staying on me and motivating me and encouraging me. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, that lag is terrible. All right. This is terrible. Huh? Go for it. All right. Um, Thank you guys. We are working on the audio. Not sure what's happening, but because I am a believer, I know that I am going to keep going and this is going to work out. It's going to work itself out. Um, so I'm going to start by reading a portion of the chapter of my book, or my chapter of the book. And I'll give you a little preset in that I talk about the impact of sound, and the ripple of sound. So I remember my dad's voice. I remember a little bit about him. So I'll talk a little bit about how I wrote to him in this chapter, or about him in this chapter, and then I'll skip ahead to talk a little bit about what I've done with that trauma. So if I can get a thumbs up from Kathy, if I know if she can hear me, then I'll go ahead and start to read a little bit of my chapter. And for my friends that are supporting me, I'm not looking at my screen, so just bear with me for a bit. His voice. I don't remember my father's voice. I recall his stately, almost stoic behavior around strangers, and also his adoring eyes with which I thought I could feel his love through. The memories that I carry around about my father are all anecdotes. Today, I choose to think that his voice was a calm and steady one, as that is how I remember feeling when he was near. When I was 7 years old, my father died by suicide, or so I was told. My father was an Air Force veteran in Vietnam and served during a time when most veteran soldiers came home different. There were so many secrets about what happened in Vietnam, about the horrors that were witnessed and executed, the drug habits that so many soldiers came home with. There was not a lot said about the time spent after his service and before his untimely death, so I kept my questions to myself. What I do remember about my father is that he loved me dearly. I yearned for that love and looked for it in all of the wrong places. And the years of my life after my father died, I coped by pretending to have conversations with him, the only man who would ever be able to love me completely. In these conversations, I created lies about who I was, and in my mind and heart, this had to be my fault, right? There were lies that I told myself about who I was that made my dad so terribly disappointed in the 7 year old Sherelle. And unbeknownst to me, those lies would go on to shape my formative years. More than anything, I wanted to be like my dad, specifically like this glorious image of him in the photo I carried around with me, tucked away within a secret pocket in my favorite stuffed animal, a ragged Tweety bird. That was my nickname, you see. When I was a child, they called me Tweety Bird. And I loved and both hated that nickname. But the picture of him was in a light colored uniform. I was standing next to him with about 3 strands of hair at the top of my head with a little bow on them. To be fair, I did look a lot like this adorable cartoon figure. And my father's family only knew me by that nickname. What a shock when I found out I was in my late 20s that Tweety was a boy. Wait. I was wondering a little too late to ask him or if his family, did they really want a boy instead? The absence of his answer slowly turned from fleeting joy to grief, from grief to anger, from anger to fear, settling decades later into a myriad of issues dealing with men in my life. Where was the impact of his voice and his words now that my memory no longer could hold them sacred? I wanted desperately to have a conversation with him, to answer the questions that made me wonder if my mother was right after all. I searched everywhere for the voice of my father, and books were the place I found and heard his whisper. My love of books turned out to be my catharsis. It was so easy for me to lose myself in a book, to truly be taken away by the words and pages that carried them, that I've read for as long as I can remember. I found the voice of my father in many a character read. My father's voice still rings out to me as I work in my purpose. My purpose is to give others the words my father never had and to ensure that less people die the way that he did. Um, so this is uh, the first time I've read this part of my story. And I know now through therapy and healing and other things that I've got to talk about the thing that does not need to be talked about. And I know now what the ripple of impact is when I share situations like this, things that I didn't want to talk about, the shame and the guilt that we know now it was not my fault. But survivor's guilt is a real thing. People who deal with family members who die by suicide, we all deal with this survivor's guilt. Some of us deal with it early on. I carried mine for 40 some years before I decided to talk about it. And so this is my new catharsis. This is giving me the opportunity to say, not only did my life have meaning and purpose, but it also helped me come up with uh, great coping mechanisms. And so I'll skip through a little bit because I talk next about my mom. But the next part that I want to talk about is what then is the impact of the ripple of sound? It is the ability to hear something, to then allow the feelings to resonate or ripple into three rings at the very least. Number one, who is speaking? As a woman, I know that I can hear things through my children's voice. I can hear things through my friend's voice. I can also hear things through my own voice, which tends to be the most negative. And so, if the words that I am talking about or the things that I'm saying, I want to know who is speaking and how does that impact the people, the three ripples that will be impacted or dealt with. The number two question is, do I think the thought is true? So if it's self-talk in my mind in the story, I talk about how I believed I was a terrible child. I believed that it was my fault that my parents died by suicide. But then when I stop to ask myself the question, do I think this thought is true? The answer is immediately no. So I've got data to help deal with the impact and the ripples that will come from my thought processes. And then the third thing is to not judge the feeling as good or bad. A feeling is what a feeling is. If it is sad, then deal with it. If it is anger, then deal with it, but don't resonate in it. So that impact, those ripples, I typically utilize those three questions to understand if the ripple of impact of what I'm saying is going to be positive or negative, or in the creating mental wealth vernacular, is it going to be a mental wealth deposit or a withdrawal? And if I don't know, then I ask myself those three questions. A feeling is an echo of experiences past. We can choose how to take that feeling and allow it to impact us only in the best way possible. As a result of the life I've lived, the experience I've gathered, and the sheer joy that fills my soul when I can make someone else's life a little bit richer as a result of the coursework that we've created, I'm excited to see ripples every single day. Now that I notice the impact that I can have in the lives of others, I'm doing justice to those who might have lost their lives to mental illness. So I don't know. I don't know if this is a calling. I don't know exactly what to pursue or to call this, right? But it is definitely my purpose. It is definitely um, what I'm supposed to do. Every time I attempt to leave and do something different, I am shifted quickly back to work in my purpose. And so it's painful sometimes. And it is joyful most of the time. So the impact, I get messages, like I had one on um, LinkedIn yesterday, and it was a comment, I think, on Kathy's post by one of the young ladies whose life we've impacted. And she talked about her being in college. This is her third year in college. And I met her at the nail salon of all places. I just happened to be there. And she's the sweetest thing. And she just looked like she needed a hug. And so I said, "Can I hug you?" And she said yes, and she's never left our side since. And so, the impact, this ripple of impact that we're creating is something that is, I know, world changing. I've been on podcasts everywhere, in India, and we helped some group go to Tanzania, Africa. Like, I know that this message of creating mental wealth will go to impact lives everywhere. And so I'm not giving up, as tough as it may be. I'm grateful to Kathy, and also for this book and this opportunity. There will be other ladies that will come on later. Yes, Kathy, to read their chapters as well, I believe.
I'm not sure who has registered for your group, so, or if they've got the link to get in. I see Natalie is in the audience.
There will be other ladies that will come on later, yes, to read their chapters as well, I believe.
I'm not sure who has registered for your group, so, or if they've got the link to get in.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, I sent the link out. I'm not sure if they got it, but today is a day of just, we're only celebrating mental wealth deposits today. So if other people show up, then we will allow them to participate. But if not, Kathy, it's you and I. So I'd like to ask you a question then. So when it comes to the impact that your authors have had, specifically on this book, can you give us some examples of some of the stories, the other stories that are in this book?
Yeah, there's been a few, and one of the ladies, I'm not sure if she wants to tell her own story later, but she was mentioning how she had been in a situation of family violence and domestic violence, and somebody had helped her get out when she didn't feel she could. And just a few years ago, she was able to pay that forward by helping somebody else get out of a domestic violence situation. So that's one example. And one of the other ladies was speaking, quite often of grandparents or a teacher who they remember having a real impact on their life going forward. And I think the bigger picture is really looking at, remembering that everything we do and say in life creates a ripple effect with the people around us. And, one of my favorite examples is simply, the cashier at the grocery store, by smiling and being polite and really that you are happy to see her and you want to acknowledge her, can completely change her day. It can change how she reacts to her family. It can change the people around her. And we were looking at even these books, for instance, by me creating this opportunity for women to come in here, share their story, be involved. For each one of the authors, it's creating an impact in their life. It's creating an impact in their business. It's creating an impact in the people that are reading the book and hearing the stories and what they can connect with. So there's so many examples in everyday life where the things that we do are creating ripple effects of impact, and really reminding ourselves to look at the positive, refocusing ourselves and make sure that we are creating positive ripples of impact. And, again, thinking about that cashier at the grocery store, if we had instead ignored her, said something grumpy to her, again, those actions would create an impact. And so let's make sure that we are focusing on creating the positive ripple of impact to really create that positive change in everyone's life around us. And really reminding ourselves to look at the positive, refocusing ourselves to make sure that we are creating positive ripples of impact. And, again, thinking about that cashier at the grocery store, if we had instead ignored her, said something grumpy to her,
Right.
again, those actions would impact. And so let's make sure that we are focusing on creating the positive ripple impact so that we
Mhm.
create that positive change in everyone's life around us.
I love that. Yeah, this we have a significant lag. So I just thank you, Kathy. You just stopped talking on my side. So uh, and it looks like the link's not working. So I'm also working on fixing that. Multitasking. Thank you so much. But the grocery store example is such a good one, Kathy. I think we don't even realize the opportunities that we have to be a mental wealth deposit to others. Sometimes it's just a smile. Sometimes it's opening the door for someone. Um, there's so many chances that we have to be a positive catalyst in a person's life, but sometimes we're so busy, our phones, and our distractions and our issues and problems in our own lives. And I love that this book has given several women, I think 24 of us, the opportunity to talk about what happens if you want to make a change. What happens if you decide to make a difference? And so many people now are complaining and bringing up stats and data about things that are bad and how the world is just so negative. However, there's also a group of people who think that they can make a difference, and we're doing it. And I think that it's imperative that we remember to talk about our wins. We have to, no matter how small. It took me forever to even promote the work that I did here because I was embarrassed. I was like, I only wrote a chapter. Like, it's not my book. It's just a chapter. It's just a chapter, but it is a chapter that will change lives. It is a step towards something that is bigger than me. It is something that will live long after I've transitioned, right? And so if we take these little baby steps, if we take these little drops and drop them into the ocean, it seems as if it's not making a difference, but it is. Like, it might end up as that wave that comes across my feet when I'm in the Dominican Republic, that can cool me off and wash away all the tears that I've collected until I went there, right? So there is an opportunity in this moment to say, what difference am I making? What is the ripple? What's the effect of the impact of my ripple? What am I doing? Is it negative? And even if you're not intending for it to be, even if you're just living your life and not really caring about others, you also have the opportunity to just see, how are you showing up? Sometimes if you just show up in a room and say nothing and doing nothing, people can see your light from within, right? And we all know where my light comes from. And I'm happy to show his light through me in every opportunity that I get. So that ripple impact is not always something that you know about. People don't always stop you to say, hey, thank you for being a great force in my life. Thank you for doing this. We don't always get that kind of feedback. We have to do it because we know the impact will be seen eventually, maybe not in our lifetime, but it's still the best feeling to know that we're doing what needs to be done, and that we are talking about it and celebrating each other through the struggles, because it's not easy being an entrepreneur right now. It's not easy doing the good work right now, but um, as we say often around here, we were created for a time such as this, and we're ready for whatever the world throws our way. We're excited to move forward and stay focused on this impact and stay focused on the ripple becoming a wave and the wave becoming a tsunami, and not in the bad way, not to tear anything up, but to disrupt what the norm is when it comes to dealing with things alone. We don't have to do that anymore. It's not mandatory to suffer in silence. We've got people who are working in all spectrums, from therapy to equine attachments, all kinds of things that we can do to keep a very diverse mental wealth portfolio, if I may. And so writing this book and being a part of this book was definitely a huge, huge investment in myself, and more so an investment in my healing, because now that I've said it out loud, I have to heal from it. And I know that people will be happy to hold me accountable for that, especially as I continue to work in this space. So let's see if I have questions in the chat. I have, it looks like the link was not working. Um,
And also on my screen above me, you can see the link that will take you to buying the book too. So actiontakerspublishing.com/ripple.
I can't switch to my phone. Um, all right. So one of the, can you guys hear me? Because I know there is a lag. So thanks. All right. Thanks, Kathy. We've got to do these long holding thumbs up. All right. So one of the questions that came in was, why is it tough? I get the work that I do. Why is it tough? Um, and what are my challenges with being a good mental health advocate? Great question. And So why is it tough? I worked for a very long time in corporate America and in leadership, which meant I had to always have this face of like, everything's great, everything's wonderful. No, it's a fantastic day. And so having to have this transparency to stop and go, yeah, no, today's not a good day. Today I just can't really pull it together. And to see the response from people who I reported to, that reported to me, my peers, it was like, what do you mean you need a mental health day? What does that mean? You are making X number of thousands of dollars a year. You don't get a mental health day. But what I found is the higher up I went and the more responsibility that came on to me as a employee or as a leader of people, the less comfortable I was discussing anxiety and depression and things that I had been actually diagnosed with, but I was too ashamed to tell anyone. Because if you remember my chapter, I talked about these feelings and the lies I told myself as a child. And those are the lies that showed up as imposter syndrome when I was in corporate America. So it was very tough to go from this demeanor of everything's fine, everything's awesome, to, oh, by the way, this is what happened to me in my childhood. This is how it showed up for me as an adult. It was very difficult to try to assimilate those two things into one, because people are like, no, Sherry's always so happy and she's always so joyful. So it was very difficult. It was very tough for me to be able to say, yes, that is me. And also, here's where I came from. Here's how I've lived the majority of my life in this survival mode. And that's what survival mode looked like for me, was smiling, making sure everyone else was happy, borderline codependency, right? And so it was very tough, but that was a great question, Shannon. Thank you for asking. And then the other question is, what are your challenges with being a good mental health advocate? Well, one of the challenges is people expect that you don't have your own mental health challenges, right? People assume that, they can just call and go, hey, Sherry, even though I'm not a therapist. Let's just clarify that really quickly. Not a therapist, not licensed, professional counselor. I'm just a person who, and Chris can probably help me with this, but I've got shared lived experience. So when I talk to people who have had suicidal ideation, who have lost someone to suicide, who struggle with any of the many diagnoses, then I can be an empathic listener, and I can listen and try to obviously refer them back to someone to help. But one of my challenges is that what happens when I have too many mental wealth withdrawals. I can't necessarily stop listening to other people because that's what I've been called to do. So it's challenging sometimes to stop, put a boundary in place so I can protect my own mental wealth bank account when there's so much volatility in the world and there's so much unhappiness, and people want to call and, hey, can I just bend your ear for a moment, which turns in sometimes an hour and 2 hours. And I will always be there for that, right? So that's sometimes challenging with managing my own mental wealth bank account and then attempting to manage others or helping them in this struggle as well. That's definitely one of the challenging things, but I'm grateful that God has always kept me available to do that. All right, another question. How do you take purposeful steps when you don't know where you're going, when the purpose is not clear? Great question, Mashera. This is just my experience. Everyone has their kind of own way of going through, but I think my purpose didn't appear to me until I was 47 years old. So I think that we put these unfair timelines on ourselves, like, hey, I need to know what I'm going to be at what age and what time. And God doesn't work that way. In my experience, you just have to have this faith. And Michelle, you referred to it with me as this reckless faith. Just, Lord, put me in the place where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there with the people who are supposed to be around me. It's a paradigm shift for having a very specific thing to pray for at a specific time. And I believe that in my experience, it leads to disappointment because we think we're the best project managers of our lives, right? But we're not. We're just the actors. And so I think that um, finding your purpose happens when it's supposed to happen. So if you're doing what you're supposed to do, or you're doing the work that you know that God's put on your heart, even if it doesn't make sense. So I started off in training delivery at AT&T. I had no idea I would become a keynote speaker and a best-selling author. We're just going to put that out there. And then I didn't know that was going to happen, but I had to follow the steps and do the things and do the jobs and get the PMP certifications that I didn't understand how they would make sense until now. So, Michelle, I just want to encourage you that your purpose will make itself clear to you when it's time. And the purpose, even when it becomes available to you, it might not be clear. You'll still have to continue to take steps in faith in order to find out what that true purpose is. So I hope that answered your question, Michelle. Um, I'm going to pause for a second and see if Kathy has anything to add before I move on to the next question.
Are we still on a big lag? I think if we're looking at the question around taking purposeful steps, I think, Sherry was saying, part of that is letting yourself discover what those are and discovering what your purpose is and really allowing yourself to step into things, even if they're activities or communities that you're not usually involved in.
She looks like
Take that step, use that wisdom, and be courageous.
I love that. I love being courageous. That is paramount, absolutely, in walking in your purpose. Thank you, Kathy. That's awesome. All right, next question. Ron Piper says, in some cases, people are accustomed to the trauma of life. What are signs that people need to identify that they may need to look at their own mental health? Again, not a practitioner, not a counselor, but I will say that if you are breathing, you probably want to take a look at your mental health, right? It is just like a health checkup. If you go to the doctor every now and then, once a year for women, we've got to go for a well woman exam. We take our children for a well child exam. Men, I believe, have a different pattern or a different schedule, but it's not as frequent. But just as often as you would check your physical health, probably a little bit more often than that, you need to check your mental health. And so on the Creating Mental Wealth show and in that curriculum, we talk about a daily assessment that we do. When we wake up in the morning, what do we feel like? Do I feel like $1,000,000 this morning? Today, I absolutely felt like $1,000,000 because it's launch day and I got a chance to talk to you great people. And I start off by writing that number down. What does that look like? Felt like $1,000,000. Slept in a little bit. That gave me another $1,000,000. But then, the news and the politics and finances and all of those things take a toll and they are withdrawals from my mental wealth account. So even if I had no diagnoses, even if I were just a human doing human things, I would every day take a note of my mental wealth account. And again, changing the word from health to wealth is because everybody wants to be wealthy. We want to be wealthy in some way or another. And the one thing that we can absolutely control is our mental wealth. So if there are things that are withdrawals, Ron, from your mental wealth account, what are your deposits? How do you then balance your mental wealth bank account if something has been a significant withdrawal? What do? You go find those things. Maybe it's go smoke a cigar with your friends. Maybe it's to go for a walk. Maybe it is to go for a swim. But find ways when you know that a withdrawal is coming, um, sandwiching it, putting something that's good on before it and something good behind it. That is a good way to check on your own mental health, right? It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you just need to make a balance, move some things from one column to the next, and make sure that you're staying balanced. But of course, my disclaimer is always check with a professional, have them talk you through where you are and if there are any diagnoses. And even if there are not, they can give you great coping mechanisms that you can deal with in those moments of, you know, pain or frustration or aggravation. Your therapist can absolutely give you the tools that will work for you. The next question we have is, how do you take purpose? Oh, no, I got that one. Um, got that one. Okay. Um, okay, hold on. I missed it. Let me get to it. Um, I don't see it. Sorry.
Where you see ripples of your positive impacts on others 5 to 10 years from now.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All right. So, where do I 5 to 10? Oh, where do I see the impact of the ripples 5 to 10 years from now? I know for a fact that the Creating Mental Wealth curriculum will be in all schools in the United States, that we will be able to equip children as young as 5 years old to speak intelligently, both about financial literacy terms and their mental health status by using this curriculum. I see that in 5 years. And then in 10 years, I know that we will have a significant impact on other places on the planet. So, Africa, by of course, and yes, I mean the entire continent. I don't mean just one place. And due to another partnership that we just developed a couple of weeks ago, I want to help a good friend, Satender, impact the billion lives that he wants to impact, that are struggling from loneliness. So, the world plus a billion people is where I'm planning on impacting in the next 5 to 10 years. I also imagine having a crew of people who are able and trained in this creating mental wealth methodology so that they can go and teach it to their communities and to their alma maters and their schools and in their families. So that's the impact that I see. It's the legend that I'm hoping to leave for my children, Tiffany and my son, Miles. Um, I I know that this will change lives, and I'm excited to be the facilitator of such, to just be the vessel to bring this down and out. So that's what I expect the ripple of this impact to be, is a global phenomena of people ready to become mentally wealthy. So I'm excited about it. All right, I think I got all the questions. Kathy, what else should I add? Oh,
Oh,
I got a question. Oh, I got another question. Sorry. All right. So, do you have advice for leaders in helping their teams create mental wealth? Oh, I got another question too. Oh, okay, got it. So I do have advice. You should hire us to come in and help you create mental wealth. So I will tell you that most of the C suite leaders that I meet with and that I work with, if you ask them, they will tell you that their team is perfect. They have no problems. There are no mental wealth withdrawals from them, that their team is just doing great. And I respond with, "Aw," uh, because we all have we all have the opportunity to become better leaders. And so, definitely hiring us to come in to do a discovery session. We do true customer experience workshops where we can do a journey map. You are here. Here's your persona as the leader of this organization. How would you receive this feedback if the roles were reversed? It's one of the examples of what we do. Not going to give away my secret sauce, sir, but definitely when we go in, we do a very in-depth discovery of the team, and we ask questions that may be uncomfortable for that leader, because you still have to work with those people. The good thing about us is we can come in, ask the uncomfortable questions, have the uncomfortable conversation with the goal of leaving you with a solution. So definitely having the conversation about how do we come in, how do we help you understand what does mental wealth look like in your organization, requires some very specific questions. It's not a cookie cutter program. It is very customized into your own needs. And so if you think Patrick Leoncioni and the five dysfunctions of a team, how you have to actually go in and talk to the team, very similar situation here. We definitely have an assessment that we roll out, and we make sure that the feedback is just for us so that we can give solutions at a global level and not individual. I hope that answered your question. Um, let's see. Mashira asked, "How did I find the courage to write this book?" That's hilarious that it came from Mashira, because Mashira is the reason that I finished this chapter. She kept me on target and on schedule, and was an awesome editor. So, Mashira, you are the reason I had the courage to write this book. Mashira and I have been in. I've been in her life for most of her adult life. I think I met her when she's 7, and she just turned 33, I think. Did you just turn 33? God, I'm old. But I love that we met at church years and years ago. I'm friends with her mom, and um, the courage was finding a young woman who has passion and fervor and talent and God given gifts, and is afraid to use them. I was afraid to use them. And I wanted to be a light. I wanted to show you that it was possible, if I wanted to do a thing, that I could do a thing, but I couldn't do it alone. And so, Mashira, I appreciate you more than I can ever explain for pushing me to get this done, because if it was not for you, today would not be possible on a lot of levels, but especially when it comes to the courage to writing this book. So I really, really appreciate you. Um, and then I've got another question. Lois said, "Do you have opportunities for interns who are being groomed to work in the mental health space?" Yes, yes, and yes. So thank you, Lois, for that question, because it's a segue that I want to say thank you to my team. I have the best team on the planet, like hands down. I could not have asked for a better team when it comes to photographers, when it comes to social media. I've got a chief operating officer. These people have been working with us since day one, and they for as volunteers. And I've had a large budget to hire people, and I've never had a team as amazing as this. So, Mashira, um, Chris, Lee, Daniel, uh, Keys, Mr. Judson, TR. I'm so honored to be able to have a team of people who believe in what we're doing and keep me motivated on the days when I am crying and I can't get out of bed. I have those days often. Mashira and Lee both are very adamant if I am not answering the phone. Kathy, this is something that you didn't know. So I have bad days, and when I have bad days, my team will just show up at my house. Mashira especially will show up to my place and just FaceTime me from my front door. So when I answer the FaceTime, there's a picture of my front door, and she's like, "I'm out here, and I'll be here until you're ready to see me, but I know you're not okay." And I can't thank you guys enough. I know that it seems like on social media everyone's got it all together and everything's great. I'm great because my team is amazing, and because they know the importance of this work. They see how I give all day, every day. And I think one of the challenges is people don't know what I do. People are like, "I don't even know what you do, Sherry. I just see you at all the things." But I spend my days on the phone talking to people, helping them understand that mental wealth is something that they can still have even in the midst of a bankruptcy, a divorce, a car accident, things that like that. That's my day. But if it wasn't for that team pouring into me constantly, if it wasn't for my team pouring into me constantly and filling my cup and reminding me that this is God's work and that I'm supposed to be doing it, I don't know where I would be, and we would not have this chapter. So, um, yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love that I have a team of folks. I love that in the chat they're talking about, yes, Michelle's like, "Yes, I do," from the front door. Absolutely. She really does. So Lois's question about the interns. So we always do need interns. There's so much work to do. We have the TV show that we're working on, the Creating Mental Wealth show. We have an album that we're working on, which will be spoken word over my son and my friend Lois playing bass in the background. So super excited about that. But when it comes to spreading the message, we need as many people as possible. So the more people that are willing to spend a couple of hours a week with us and helping push the message via social media, please do reach out to us. You can find me on LinkedIn, Sherry James PMP. Actually, Michelle, if you can drop my Instagram handle in the chat, that'd be fantastic. And then yeah, I'd love to have as many interns as possible. About to go into a busy season, so definitely need as many interns as possible. My business partner is Dr. Stacia Alexander, so they are absolutely under the covering of someone who is licensed and she's been doing this work for 30 years. So don't feel afraid. She's got 30 years in the clinical space, and I have the same amount of time in corporate space. So we can understand how either to prepare you for corporate, how to equip you while you're in corporate, or even how to promote you once that you've left corporate and decided to become an entrepreneur. We are here to support you in all of those areas. And this book is a official launch of Phoenix Speaks Revisited 2.0, as it were. Because we're ready to just set this phoenix aflame and let her fly. So I'm super excited for it to be here. So I don't know. So Kathy, I want to know, can you tell me what the numbers are again? I would love to be motivated to just know what the numbers are for the book. I know it's every minute changes, right? So where are
Yes,
we?
it's always changing. I don't have it all in front of me right now, but last I saw we had hit #1 in Canada, US, Australia, and where else was it? Those three for sure. And I think Germany we were in bestseller, but hadn't quite got to #1 yet. And of course, we always change some of the things, different categories. So we always aim to hit #1 in many countries, in many categories. And it's just a really fun way to spread the news and spread the book as far as we can.
Oh, Natalie made it. Yay.
Better late than never, hey? So good to be with
I
you.
love it. So does that mean we're already international bestsellers? Like, I want to make sure I understand the vernacular.
Yes. We are international #1.
Hi, Natalie. I can't hear her. Can
Wow.
you guys hear Natalie? Is it just me?
Pardon me.
Hey, Natalie, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, wow. This is absolutely surreal.
Yes, we did it.
It's sinking in. The water is sinking in of our ripple.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me, because this is absolutely reality shifting
Okay,
for me.
Natalie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it was January, Kathy, she invited me to come on board. And I'd been writing my own true story for the last 10 years. And it was just super difficult. And she said, well, maybe if you just release one chapter, maybe that would help you. And so what that did for me is I began to structure and benchmark my time. I hired a developmental editor for my big project. And then I got to work on the ripple effect. And that in itself just opened doors to just really nailing down, what is it? Because I think for many of us, there's different ways we think that our impacts are different, and maybe put too much weight upon certain things and maybe less weight upon the most important things, our biggest ripple. And that's what writing this chapter did for me. I discovered that the supernatural, my experiences with the supernatural that I kept so closely guarded, were really what the public needs to hear about. And for those who are maybe walking in darkness, who think they're all alone, I can attest that we are not alone. So that is what my chapter is about. That those supernatural spirit to spirit encounters, some people would say higher power, creator, I call God. So I'm just so happy I wrote it, because it really clarified for me my biggest impact. Do you want to hear a tiny bit? Or do we have time? Let's see. I'll just say supernatural, things that cannot be explained by science. Most mornings I'm awakened by an inner heat that lights me up like the sunrise. I tell the Creator, if you want me up, awaken me, and it always happens. I don't use an alarm clock. For real. Operating in the supernatural requires trust and faith. It's not me making it happen, but more like jumping into a river and going with the flow of divine destiny. In the summer of 2023, I received a God download, wisdom beyond typical perception, and immediately questioned whether I'd heard it. The voice said, "Stop second guessing. You hear me." Okay, that assurance gave me the confidence I needed and still need, especially as I write this. What is my ripple effect? A major ripple is releasing my full life story unsilenced, which I've been distilling for 10 years. The most profound moment happened in 2000. I saw the hand of God break through my ceiling. For me, God is tangible. And I will leave it at that, because it was a very dark, difficult journey. But the Spirit kept drawing me in and drawing me into love and drawing me into peace and drawing me into solutions. And finally, I began to listen and began to walk on the right pathways. And here I am on this beautiful path with you two and all the other authors. And I'm just amazed and grateful. So thank you. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Here I am on this beautiful path with you two and all the other authors, and I'm just amazed and grateful. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful to have met you. I'm excited to do your work with you because we're going to do a session. We're going to get some mental wealth assessments done for both of you ladies. And it is right at the top of the hour. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Thank you for sharing your chapter. Kathy, thank you for this opportunity. I know you've got to go continue changing the world. And thank you to everyone who's listened for this hour. I will stay on for a little bit if anyone has any additional questions. Thank you, Natalie, for showing up. I'll see you later again at another launch party. And Kathy, I will see you later as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this time. And I'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Bye.
All right, y'all. It's just us. Thank you, May. Thank you for everyone in the chat. I really appreciate you guys showing up today. Hopefully you got a mental wealth deposit or two from today's session. I am going to breathe now. Like, it is time to just relax and breathe. please make sure that you guys purchase the book, share it. I'm putting it in the chat yet again. But please do continue to support the Creating Mental Wealth movement and the TV show. It's going to be, we got some really cool things coming your way. And so stay tuned. In the short term and in the interim, go with peace and light. I love you guys. And I'll see you soon. Bye.